Okay. I am interested in, and I just have a few more questions because I did promise everyone, including the council staff who worked so hard here, that on a Friday night we would not go into the wee hours. That I am trying to meet my commitment to have everyone out by 7, and I think we'll do that. But I just have a few more questions. One involves the recent changes to the HIV prevention community planning group, and if you could put on the record how you think this is going to improve planning. And just to inform the population at home how planning might change.
Sure, absolutely. Do you want me to speak both to the Ryan White Planning Council and the Prevention Planning Group? Sure. So the Ryan White Part A legislation mandates something called a planning council that is comprised of a set of individuals of various interests and expertise to help really provide prioritization of the needs for care for the population, as well as to provide oversight of our, both spending and hopefully accomplishing those goals. Over the past year, considerable investments have been made both by the HA and by HRSA, HRSA through providing a dedicated expert technical advisor to make the Planning Council as effective and efficient as possible. And I stress efficient because this is a voluntary council. And so if meetings don't seem to be run well, if business doesn't seem to be getting done, people vote with their feet and they don't want to come. They don't want to dedicate those volunteer hours if they're not feeling they have a meaningful output from that dedication. And so through narrowing the size of the committee a little bit to make it really only meaningful degree of participants, and I think we went from about 50 to 36, and making sure those 36 can show up regularly and all the time, by restructuring the subcommittee structure so that there's fewer meetings, more consolidation of like purposes, and
go from once a month to once every other month.
Well, the main meeting is still once a month because there's a lot of business to be done, but there used to be 12 or 15 subcommittees in addition to that, and now I think we have 4.
And what is the implication for the executive committee? Will there be more or fewer or the same number of meetings?
Same number of meetings. Well, actually fewer for the executive committee because the executive committee is made up of the co-chairs of all those other committees. And so the standard meeting is about the same size, but it's much more cohesive and business function coming from a smaller influx of subcommittees. But I think also importantly, to be as effective as possible, and this is where our technical assistance has really come in, is really defining what the priority roles and responsibilities of both the Planning Council and the grantee, which is us, are. Because one of the reasons for inefficiencies is if you don't differentiate between what has to get done and what would be fun to do, or what would be of interest. What do we need to know versus what would be interesting things to spend time on. And we found, just sort of retrospectively looking at the past, that sometimes the interesting things or side issues could be so overwhelming that the core business didn't get done. And so that helped from HRSA in actually providing a lot of training, capacity building for all Planning Council members. What is your job? What has to be delivered? How do you do it? And where best practices from other planning councils, I think, has really made a big difference. In addition to that, finally, the Planning Council has a specific Planning Council coordinator, which is a senior level position who is responsible for, not the logistic support, not, making sure that the PowerPoint works or things like that, but actually making sure that everything the Planning Council needs for its business, whether it's a policy decision, whether it's a coordination, whether it's that subcommittee, functioning or not, so I can let the chairs know, is supported. So we're very optimistic on the Planning Council. And then we've, following that, we're also investing heavily in re-energizing the prevention, the CDC CPG Community Planning Group, which has an advisory role, not a legislative role or fiscal role. And it's an advisory role about the most narrow interpretation is how to spend our CDC prevention grant. Again, the point is that for it to be representative of a lot of different expertise and interests. But again, there have been a lot of attrition and not much participation all the time. And I think because people, things weren't being run in a way that people felt their contributions were meaningful. So the subcommittee structure has been restructured. We just finished a brand new set, I should say they just finished a brand new set of recruitment for new members. who at the last CPG meeting a few weeks ago were officially voted in by the CPG. And I tell you, the overall review of the 20 or so people on the CPG shows tremendous diversity as well as tremendous commitment and tremendous skill set that I think will help us as HA to have as advisors and reality testers for these plans in progress as they roll out.
Thanks to Shona going